I'm a 26-year-old woman, and until a few months ago, I thought I knew exactly who I was. That changed when I got a Facebook message from someone named Olivia, a 29-year-old woman who claimed we were long-lost sisters. At first, I thought it was one of those weird scams. You know, the ones where someone promises a fortune or claims to have shocking family secrets. But Olivia didn't ask for money or seem sketchy. Instead, she wrote about memories of a younger sister who was taken from her family years ago. I didn't take it seriously at first. It sounded crazy. Who gets kidnapped and grows up never knowing? But the details she included were specific. She mentioned a time frame that lined up eerily with my early childhood and claimed she had spent years trying to track me down. What really got me, though, was a picture she attached, a photo of her with a woman she said was our mom. The woman in the picture looked ... familiar. The kind of familiar that makes your stomach drop, even though you can't figure out why. I showed the message to my boyfriend, who immediately said we should look into it. I laughed it off, saying it was clearly fake, but something about the picture stuck in my head. When I brought it up to my parents later that evening, their reactions were odd. My dad barely looked up from the TV, mumbling something about don't believe everything on the internet. My mom, though, got this tight look on her face and quickly changed the subject. It felt off, but I didn't press them. I figured they were just annoyed I was wasting time on some random message. That night, lying in bed, I started thinking about my childhood. I realized there were a lot of gaps in what I remembered. For one, I'd never seen any baby pictures of myself. Whenever I asked about it growing up, my mom would just wave it off, saying they weren't organized back then, and that most of the pictures got lost during a move. I believed her. Why wouldn't I? But now, thinking about it, it felt strange. Who doesn't have any baby pictures? The next day, Olivia messaged me again. This time, she sent more photos, including one of herself as a toddler. She looked just like I did in my old childhood photos, or at least the ones from when I was around 3 or 4 years old. She also told me about a few specific things from her childhood, like how she used to sleep with a stuffed rabbit named Mr. Floppy that she'd lost the day I disappeared. Something about the way she wrote felt genuine, and I couldn't shake the feeling that she wasn't lying. My boyfriend suggested I take a DNA test to see if there was any truth to her claims. When I mentioned it to my parents, they both dismissed the idea. My mom called it a waste of time, and my dad just muttered something about not stirring up drama. Their reactions made me more suspicious than ever. Why were they so against something as harmless as a DNA test? That's when I started digging. I pulled out my birth certificate, something I hadn't looked at since I applied for my first job. At first glance, everything seemed normal, but then I noticed something weird. The certificate had been issued years after I was supposedly born. I Googled it, and apparently that can happen in adoption cases or under unusual circumstances. It was enough to make my heart race. Over the next few days, I started asking questions. When I casually mentioned my birth to an aunt at a family gathering, she gave me a strange look and said, "Well, you know your parents had a tough time back then." When I pressed her for details, she got flustered and changed the subject. Another relative told me I'd been a blessing during a rough time, but when I asked what that meant, they shrugged and said they didn't remember. At this point, I couldn't shake the feeling that something wasn't adding up. I decided to meet Olivia. We picked a neutral place, a coffee shop, and when I walked in, it was like looking in a mirror. We had the same eyes, the same nose, even the same way of laughing nervously when we sat down. She told me about her life growing up, how her mom had always talked about the little sister they lost. Her story was detailed, down to the kinds of games they used to play before I supposedly disappeared. After that meeting, I went straight to my parents. I didn't accuse them of anything. I just asked questions.